Hi everyone. Journal 81 today. It's another like AI in the arts topic. And like I know I hate it too. I hate this topic, but every once in a while the urge to talk about something I loathe is I can't overcome it. And so this is one of those wiles, this is one of those urges. This is one of those things I loathe. And so I'm going to get to it. For this though, first, this isn't for fashion. Like every time I have the mental energy to shave, I do so. Just to like make my face unitchy. But my book, right, The Crown and the Cage God, Bonston is on the back, right? There's Bonston. And you notice Bonston's beard. I am growing out a Bonston beard. I'm doing an event later this month where I'm going to have a Bonston beard. And so it's going to keep happening. And then as soon as it's done happening, I'll whatever. So the inspiration for this one, let me just set it up. Let me introduce it before I read, and then I'll introduce it after. So stick around after I'm done reading and I'll chat some more. But the inspiration for this one, I was sitting over there and I was here. We're on the sofa. Marie is here. That's what I mean by we. I always sit on the right. That's my designated seat. Like it's a classroom and students sit exactly in the same desk every time. And Marie always sits on the left. And we're watching this talk show and the guest comes on, who's a politician. And she says something almost, word for word. I don't remember. This is 2 or 3 months ago. It's by memory of watching this. And she says something like, AI companies should regulate themselves, right? Implying that government has no business overseeing this. And I turn this direction, right, to Marie, and I said, how could that not lead to extinction? That was my line to Marie, and I'm pretty sure also word for word. And then we kind of just stopped watching the TV and we had our own conversation. And I think maybe you'll agree with me, just like, it's hard to deny. So think about, this is where our conversation went. Imagine that same line being said about the pharmaceutical industry, right? Like a big pharma. Big pharma should regulate itself, right? Enough with the FDA. Abolish the FDA. These companies, they know what they're doing. AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, they know what they're doing, these companies. I mean, their first priority, right, is protecting the public health. And so like they would never, obviously they would never put us at risk for profits. We can trust them. What are we even doing with all this research? I mean, today it takes billions of dollars, multiple billions of dollars spent across several years to bring a drug to the market. And this is just an unnecessary impediment to the economy, right? We're just obstructing the economy for no good reason. Let's put CEOs in charge, give them more executive role. These CEOs can make up their mind without our input about when to put drugs on the market and what. This is terrible, right? Everyone knows, even the lobbyists themselves know how horrible. Like in a few years, like pharmaceutical poisoning would be the leading cause of mortality for people worldwide. This would be, I would argue that's still better though than the leading cause of mortality, as opposed to being like pharmaceutical poisoning over heart disease 3-1, AI to everything else 8 billion to 0. That seems worse, and it also seems inevitable if we trust that political position, that encouragement. And so when she said that line, AI companies should regulate themselves, I was horrified. But then after Marie and I finished our conversation, I actually came to sort of found a Zen resolve about it, because all things end. Everything dies, everything ends. And how we end, I think, is more important than what we leave behind. I talked a little bit about what we leave behind in the last journal, but how we end, what our departure looks like, the only thing we really can control, I'm going to talk about in this one. So let's read it. I hope you can't hear the leaf blowers. This is annoying me. I hope we don't leave. That's not part of our ending. So, Journal 81, Thursday, the 4th of July, 2024, 100% Human, Part 2, Renaissance, Part 2. Hi, everyone. I have a prediction. After AI has finished eliminating all artistic careers, but before it's finished exterminating all people, we'll experience a period that rivals the High Renaissance in painting, songwriting, and storytelling. I'm not sure about sculpture for several reasons. The High Renaissance, the very summit of human genius, only lasted a few decades. I suspect the even higher Renaissance will be both briefer and loftier in its brilliance, and I await its arrival impatiently, because lately the arts have been lifeless, because the inspiration for their creation is not art for art's sake, it's money for money's sake, and there is no greater enemy of creativity than an economy. Every profitable medium is made into a miller's enterprise in which consumer merchandise is churned out in mass market bulk. 5 more stale Star Wars spin-offs is a sure bet for the shareholders, and since that's all that matters, that's what gets made. Then it's distributed in flashy packaging to seduce young audiences like Cheetos, Fruit Loops, and Mountain Dew. And it's filled with artificially flavored settings, high fructose characters, and hydrogenated plots. And just like their dietary counterparts, ultra-processed arts have no nutritional value. All they are is candy. No emotion is nourished by consumption, and yet nothing else exists on eye-level shelves. The unprocessed arts are never on display because they're actually original, and originality is risky, and risk is seldom safe for business. So the suit-clad executives muzzle every muse, afraid that a sharp edge might scrape a consumer's sensitivities. All art is made dull. Year after year after year, the same baby-proofed stories get told over and over and over. In a letter from Oscar Wilde to Mr. Morgan, he wrote, "The best work in literature is always done by those who do not depend on it for their daily bread, and the highest form of literature, poetry, brings no wealth to the singer." Only after AI has toppled the empire of commercial art will painting, songwriting, and storytelling be released from the bondage of their economies. This will permit the second coming of all 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the lesser-known 5th turtle, Bramante, and countless others. They won't be deterred by risk. They'll put their health and relationships on the line for their work, and they'll never make a dime. But what those martyrs leave behind will be a perfect swan song, which no one will hear until the corporate geese have ceased all their honking. In the continued words of Wilde to Morgan, make some sacrifice for your art and you will be repaid, but ask of art to sacrifice herself for you and a bitter disappointment may come to you. Today, I find myself bitterly disappointed by the commercialization of all arts. Sculpture aside. That requires physical material, so it can't be digitally distributed, and it occupies physical space, which is getting awfully scarce, so warehouse distribution is limited too. And that makes sculpture the modern equivalent of Wilde's poetry. But the other arts are as commercial as Independence Day. We dine on chips, dips, and hot dogs, wash it down with colas, and after our ultra-processed gluttony, we terrorize the nation's pets and veterans with mass market fireworks. The same show, year after year after year, over and over and over. When AI finally supersedes us and our Dependence Day arrives, I can think of no better finale for our species than a climactic explosion of originality. The music will serve as our funeral march, the stories our eulogy, and the paintings our winding sheet. All right, that's it. Except for my outroduction, I think I call it. So in Journal 52, this is like a couple of Mays ago. This is a while ago. As I was talking around the journal, I said something about the destruction of the internet and the role that AI will play in that. But recently, like in the very latelys, I just keep hearing that prediction just keeps coming. I mean, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, prominent people. And so I've changed my mind, right? I don't think, that's not my prediction. That's not my assumption of what's coming. Prediction is too strong a word. Because like whenever a mob mentality forms, and I would characterize this as a mob mentality, it never really comes true. There's always some course correction. And so I think what's going to happen is we'll have multiple internets, not the destruction. You know, if like a few years from now, we'll still have multiple, like the one we all use now, let's call it like beta net or beta web or something. Like, let's say AlphaNet was bulletin board system. Like that stuff, you know, that if you're my age, you remember this, calling up your friends' houses. And like, that's what I played Legend of the Red Dragon on. There's this video game of text, but whatever. So that would be like AlphaNet. And then beta web is the one we all, like now we're mass beta testing and it's not going very well. But that's still going to be here like 3 years hence, right? It's just going to be like Detroit in the 2010s. No offense to Detroit. Detroit can't take offense. It's a city. The Detroiters, the inhabitants, like it's actually a compliment to Detroiters, because if there's anyone watching or anyone, you know, currently using beta web, like beta testing it, who can still take criticism, still, you know, accept a punchline as is, or like, I think like Detroiters are the best candidate for the, there's integrity there, right? But I think so that's going to still, but other internets are coming, right? There's going to be, I mean, just the creepiest one ever. Like just imagine the creepiest thing you can and then turn the dial a little bit further and that's going to be meta. That's like meta net, meta web, meta, whatever creepiness. And like the fact that it'll be one of the most successful ones to me says something about our speed. It doesn't say anything about you and the people in this community for whom I hold a very high regard. But it's like, you've seen the world and its inhabitants. There's like Facebook's version of the internet is going to be huge. But then there's also going to be like a country club one that none of us can afford. I mean, the buy-in and the monthly dues, it's just like we're all going to be peasants. It's going to be like 21st century peasants. 99% of us, and then 1% of people will have like the country club internet. And then I also think though, there's gonna be like a human, like 100% human. I don't know what this one would be called. I would invite you to let me know your candidates for what the human internet's name should be. But maybe it'll be regulated by AI, sort of moderated by it a little bit, but the participation, the participants are gonna be, it's gonna be like old guard members. It's gonna be you, it's gonna be me, or at least it's going to be me and some of you. And it's like people who believe that our deepest integrity is our humanity. And so all communication, right, is going to be 100% human. All artistic expression is going to be 100% human. That's the internet I'm going to use for the short duration that we have for the, you know, second renaissance, the second high renaissance, even higher renaissance. But that's it. I hope I'm done talking about AI for a really long time, because I really do hate this subject. I would much rather have an entire journal and conversation about, like, okay, Bramante, with the reptilian equivalent of the version of Bramante. What weapon would he use? But the terrible ones are taken. The ridiculous ones are like Raphael got the sai. You know, Michelangelo has like nunchucks. You know, okay, the absurd ones are done. You can't choose a pole arm because Donatello picked the worst one. It's like a broom. Like if Bramante is going to upgrade to like a halberd, you know, or a spear or something like that, the sibling rivalry with Donatello. So you can't do that. Donatello already has a broomstick. That one's taken. And so I don't know what the weapon would be. Like, not all of them, I think, have throwing stars, so you can't choose that. I mean, maybe it's like agricultural equipment. It's, you know, something for, like, if you're going to have like a Frankenstein, you know, mob, like those weapons. Like a hatchet, it could be a hatchet, like a little, my hunch, here's my prediction. I would love to hear your thoughts, what you think the fifth turtle would use as a weapon. But I think maybe it would be a firearm. But again, it would have to be the worst one. It would be like the bow, you know, you can't choose the halberd, I'm going with the bow. So I think it would be like a musket, not rifle, not bayoneted, it would just be a musket. That's my, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on what the human internet is. And what Bramante would use as a weapon. But that's it. I hope that's it for a long time about AI. And I also hope, my departing hope, is that you find the internet that's right for you. Even if it's meta, that's fine. I'm not judging. That's fine. Even if that's your internet, that's okay. And I hope that your participation in and enjoyment of the figurative firework display, our great exodus, is so rewarding, so inspiring, so uplifting, as to be worthy of our departure. Okay, bye.